All right, Alexander, let's do a very quick video. Can you explain what's going on in the UK with Owen Paterson? Let me just read you a title of this article that I ran across on Sputnik, and I'm kind of like, what's going on here? It says, you must put your job as an MP first, Boris Johnson says, following Paterson's lobbying row. What's going on? Is this a new scandal?
It's a new scandal, and it's a kind of scandal, I'm afraid, that regularly recurs in British politics. The thing to understand is that many MPs, Labour MPs and Conservative MPs, perhaps realistically Conservative MPs more than Labour MPs, often see their job as MPs as an opportunity to enrich themselves by working as lobbyists. And Owen Paterson, who is a Conservative MP, worked as a lobbyist, and on the basis of that, he basically doubled his income. That's probably an understatement, actually. He made an awful lot of money on that basis. Now, the fact was reported to the watchdog, the parliamentary person who carries out examination of these things. This person then provided a report which said that Owen Paterson had infringed the rules. He'd gone too far in what he was doing, and as a result, she recommended a period of several months suspension from his position from his work as an MP. Paterson was, of course, extremely angry about that because, of course, it cut into his ability to work as MP. It was humiliating. It was publicly embarrassing. It also meant, of course, that he couldn't work as a lobbyist and make money as he was doing previously. So he agitated with several of his friends in the media to try to claim that the process whereby he'd been outed was flawed, and he's a strong Brexiteer. But can I just say, lots of people from all sides of the Parliament do this sort of thing. And he claimed that he'd been singled out because he was pro-Brexit. Johnson, who is always sympathetic to this sort of thing, then decided that the process whereby Paterson had been outed for lobbying was flawed. He announced that he would change radically the way in which MPs are investigated and disciplined for this sort of thing, to sort of soften it down. That predictably provoked an outcry. Johnson had to back down. And as a result, of course, the media is now on a hunt looking for other MPs, specifically targeting pro-Brexit Tory MPs who do this sort of thing, even though, as I said, all MPs do it. So the affair was badly handled by from Johnson's point of view. He let himself be talked into action by Paterson's friends, including a very powerful journalist called Charles Moore, who writes for The Telegraph, action he should not have taken. And as a result, he's been forced to U-turn, to reverse himself on this issue. And that's opened him up to another line of attack, which now looks at further lobbying by other Conservative MPs, including the former Conservative leader Ian Duncan Smith and Geoffrey Cox, who was the former Attorney General, Theresa May's Attorney General, who works as a barrister and who many people say was failing to declare conflict of interest positions. These scandals regularly recur in British politics. They're often used by the left liberal media to target Conservatives. It was used very much in the 1990s when Blair was rising and was challenging the Conservative major government to discredit the Conservative major government. But Labour MPs did the same thing, to my knowledge. And as I said, there have been lots of scandals involving MPs and their lobbying and their misuse of the expenses procedure. And there's a brief period of outrage, and then things just go back to normal.
Okay. This isn't unique to Paterson, I mean, or Conservative. I mean,
No,
this is the lobbying and all that is something.
Well, of course not. I mean,
the revolving door is what
it's a revolving door, absolutely. I mean, it happens all the time. And of course, some years ago, when it was a Labour government, the Conservatives did the same thing to the Labour Party. They found that lots of Labour MPs and some Conservative MPs were misusing the expenses, the sort of rules over how to claim expenses that MPs were doing, and the result was that some MPs had to resign, and I think 2 were prosecuted and 1 was sent to prison. And of course, going back further still, if you go back to the last days of Tony Blair, he was actually investigated because there was a fair amount of evidence, in fact I thought conclusive evidence, that he'd sold honours to fight an election campaign. So these are just bog standard scandals. The record on them is that there's a huge outcry. They're used by whichever party is in opposition, and which has the media on side, or parts of the media on side. They then blow over, and then things go back to normal. In other words, corruption continues exactly as before, and the polling figures don't really change because, to say it frankly, the British public are annoyed and angered by these sort of things, but they've long given up any hope or belief that there's anything they can do about it. Corruption in Britain is not as bad as it is in the United States, in Congress there, but it's getting increasingly like that.
It's getting worse over time. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So interesting story. We'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Go to the Duran shop, everybody. The Duran shop, 10% off. Use the code Real News. Take care.